Boom. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This first unit on presentations, INST 5035. I'm Jeff Bixby. I'm joined by Destiny in China. Thank you both for joining me. Like you're great. Already. We've just been having some small talk, just making sure that we're organized. I'm going to go first. And so the presentation, I should be sharing my screen already. Here's my presentation that I have built using Google Slides. So I guess the first thing I should say is that my instructional topic is a flipped classroom, the instructional design and the technology that can support it. Prior to my current role as a learning specialist at UT High School, I was a classroom instructor for 16 or 17 years. And so largely as a result of the COVID year, I adopted a flipped classroom model. And so this presentation is largely like a professional development that is based on my experience putting that together and the lessons learned. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit slideshow to get into that full presentation mode. Here are my objectives, right? So this presentation, the learners at the end should be able to describe the defining features of a flipped classroom model of blended instruction. They should be able to explain the relationship between relevant concepts of various learning theories and instructional design decisions that can support a flipped classroom. And then also describe at least 3 forms of instructional technology that can be used to support a flipped classroom model. So I utilized a Google Slides presentation because there's some flexibility involved where this could be delivered as like a synchronous PD, where somebody like myself could be in front of an audience of learners, walking them through this presentation, talking about my experiences, answering questions. Or I also set this up so that it could be delivered to teachers asynchronously. So the way in which I did that is if we click this next button, I have like a menu screen or a course content screen where all of the topics that are covered in the presentation are listed here. So like why I use the flipped classroom, or design, how to design course modules, or what does it mean to prepare for class? What does accountability look like? So from a non-linear or asynchronous perspective, a learner could select on standards-based assessment and go straight to like that topic. And then when they're done with that, they could click home and they're back to where they started, and they can check out a different topic like designing course modules, learn what they need to from this slide, and then go home. And so one of the weaknesses that I found with Google Slides is the inability, or at least my inability, to embed audio. So from an asynchronous perspective, my preference would be for a learner to click this icon right here, this play button, and then for them to hear my voice explaining what it is that they're looking at, right? So if they're wanting to learn more about formative checks and practice, they go to that slide. Ideally, they would click this and get a little bit more information than what is just listed in the bullet points. Because my approach to designing these types of presentations is fewer words on the screen, more images. I think we've all been in professional development situations where you've had the presenter just reading off the slide to you and how cringy that is. And so that just requires, if you're going to go this direction, it requires a lot of preparation and requires a lot of background knowledge in order to be able to talk in and around these bullet points, right? And so the benefit of having embedded audio is that a learner that is doing this asynchronously could look at these minimal bullet points, click the audio, and get that more in-depth sort of background, right? So again, from my experience, this is something that Google Slides just doesn't do very well. That being said, I compared to other presentation tools like PowerPoint, I do recognize that Google Slides just doesn't have as many robust features, but I see that as a strength, right? Like I've used PowerPoint a lot in my time as a teacher, and it's really easy to get bogged down in all of the different animations and things that you can do. Um, Ideally, I guess, to make your presentation more engaging, but it just maybe slows down the development process, where I feel like Google Slides gives you just enough tools that you need in order to make a very, I think, clean and effective presentation. The other thing I like about Google Slides is that, if you're using an LMS like Canvas, it's really easy to embed your presentation in a course page, right? So rather than having just like a random link, right? Nobody, that's very ugly, right? Just to see links presented. So if you have the ability, like through using Google Slides, you sync your Google Drive account to your Canvas account, you can embed that actual presentation into the course page where students can interact with it in the page rather than having to click to it, open a new tab, and then they're now outside of the LMS as a result, right? So any way that you can, I guess, seamlessly incorporate the learning into the system that you can is take advantage of it, right? So I guess this is where I open the floor to comments, suggestions, questions.
As you were going through, regarding the audio, if I am not mistaken, I believe there is a way to, you know how you have the sort of image, the clip art, the play button there in the corner?
Yeah, right
I
here.
want to say there's a way if you go to insert on Google Slides, there's a spot where you can click on audio. However, I'm not sure how that would kind of play out. I haven't played around with that. And also, another way you could do it is perhaps maybe this might be very tedious, very monotonous, but recording a short YouTube snippet and kind of embedding it into that image,
Yeah.
and then the volume can play from there. There might be some workarounds, but if I'm not mistaken, you may be able to add audio, and then the same way that you're able to link the slides to
Yeah.
go to a different slide, you might be able to link it to that image as well.
So I was looking at that as well, China, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think if you do embed, like if I had an audio file in Google Drive that I wanted to link to this image, okay, I could do that. But if I click that image now, this play button is maybe going to open a separate tab
Okay.
and play that audio versus I'm looking at
It
this
being
screen and it's
mhm.
playing the audio within the actual slide. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like PowerPoint has the narration
right.
feature. That's kind of what this
So
lacks.
maybe
Okay.
that's the strength of PowerPoint versus Google Slides, is that PowerPoint can do that more easily.
hmm But no, I really enjoyed it. I personally teach a lot. We teach within the Google Workspace. So I'm utilizing Google Classroom a lot. And I really enjoy this format. We, as far as in my district, create a lot of project based learning assignments. We are focused on, providing students with a question and guiding them and scaffolding them on a way through that learning experience so they're able to kind of authenticate that and truly kind of immerse themselves into the teaching and learning process. So I feel as though this flipped classroom professional development would work really great for teachers in my field, especially some that are more veteran teachers, because oftentimes they aren't used to utilizing technology in the classroom, or they might see some drawbacks within sort of the new rollouts that we are doing. So I feel like this will work great. They can go at their own pace and kind of have even the examples on the side of how to set it up will be really great.
It's definitely intimidating, right? I think one of the takeaway messages out of this presentation is to like start small, right? Maybe just focus on a unit of your course versus trying to reimagine the whole thing, because there's a lot, even if you have an understanding of what you want to do, you're going to run into roadblocks that you don't necessarily anticipate. So,
Destiny, I know you are in grant writing, so sort of what is your perspective of this kind of education side, flipped classroom aspect of things?
So I was just gonna ask you guys that. So in an aspect of like teaching, my position doesn't teach like as an educator like children. So this would be definitely a great aspect of when I get in that experience of teaching like kids. But in my current role of like grant writing, I wouldn't say this would work for adults because like you said, China's a bit intimidating. So like I don't think the adults will work best with this type of learning environment, but I definitely do think that this would be great for students, definitely K through 12. So I do agree with you guys that this definitely does have a lot of great learning elements, but just not definitely not for grant writing though. This is completely different than like a teaching aspect. So but if I were giving like my training course is me teaching them, but it's not like an education, it's not like an educational setting. So it's a bit different, but definitely in you guys' line of work, I would definitely say yes.
awesome. Well, any other pieces of feedback? Any other things that I should be, I guess, taken away from this presentation, or do we feel like this was a solid conversation?
I think it was a solid conversation.
Solid conversation.
I would actually like to ask you though, Jeff, have you used this like throughout your career? Like this uh, like this
Well,
element have you used?
so if you're asking about like just a flipped classroom, like
Mhm.
that style of teaching, no. That was probably something that when COVID happened and I had students that were at home, but I also had students that were in the classroom, right? So I didn't think it was feasible or even effective to try to teach to both audiences directly at the same time, like in the way in which I did in the past.
Yeah.
So my response to that was, okay, well, I'll take like the lecture component of the classroom experience and make that something that students did on their own, regardless of where they were. And so that when we were together, whether you're in a classroom or at home, we're doing stuff with that information.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
more hands-on activities. And so this presentation is geared more towards helping teachers make that shift in their mindset in terms of how they could approach teaching their students, right?
Okay.
Taking what is traditionally homework and then bringing that into the classroom and doing that together. And then the stuff that most kids tune out of,
Right. Yeah.
make that the homework, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it's easier said than done, right? But a lot of this presentation is designed towards addressing some of those questions that come up, like accountability.
Yeah.
How do you make sure students are doing the things that you ask them to do, coming and be prepared for class?
Yeah. Okay.
So,
But no, I feel like
Outside
it
of
was
that,
super.
I love the conversation. I'm sorry, China.
No, you're good. You can keep going.
No, I was just saying outside of that, that was my only intriguing question.
all right. Well, these were great questions. I appreciate both of you, the different perspectives you have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Um, I think we've come to an end, right? So see you next time.
I'll see you guys in a few minutes.